Hey there, everyone. It is Bryan Barron, Director of Skincare Research at Paula's Choice Skincare, coming at you today on November 2020 for a live chat that is going to be Ask Me Anything. We haven't done that topic in a while, and here we are. I see there's some questions already in the queue. So whatever's on your mind about Paula's Choice, about skincare in general, ingredients. You can ask me about makeup, hair care, procedures. Do keep in mind that my primary focus is skincare, so I'm not necessarily up to speed on like all the latest hair care products and all the latest color products. But if you have questions about specific ingredients, I'm most instances fairly up on those, so feel free to ask away. If I don't know, I'll tell you. I'll never BS an answer. Not my style. It's been an interesting week, huh? And you know, I have to apologize. I know in the last live chat, which was 2 weeks ago, I had mentioned that Wednesday, November 4th, I would be doing another live chat, and I got my dates mixed up. I had completely spaced on the fact that I'd asked for that day off. Not very often I just take a random Wednesday off, but there you go. And so what we decided to do was bring the live chat to today, the 11th, and then the next week on November 18th, I will be doing my second of 2 live chats for the month, because the following Wednesday, which I think is the last Wednesday of November, I'm off work for the Thanksgiving break. So anyway, here we are. I don't know if I told you guys that I had a crown done on my tooth, and I had to go back this morning and have the bottom portion of it kind of smoothed and polished a bit more, because it was hitting against my tongue, and to some extent I think it's still doing that a little bit. So if I sound like I am lisping, that likely has something to do with it. God, I hate those things. I mean, I know they need to be done, but I've been having some pain over here as well. So my dentist thinks that he referred me to an endodontist, so I will more than likely need a root canal. Apparently they have more sophisticated equipment to be able to take different views of, you know, what's going on with the tooth. So the filling that was there, this is probably TMI, but I think it was one of my first fillings from when I got my permanent teeth in, and it was huge. It was just a very, very big filling. So I knew that this tooth might be a little bit more problematic, but yeah. So on the upside, I'm not on any pain medication, so if I'm acting loopy, that's just me. So let's go ahead and get started with your questions. I'll grab the old spectacles here. Oh, this week, kind of a low-key launch, but we now have our environmentally responsible, sustainable, reusable, and washable cotton pads to use to apply liquid products. You get, let me double check. I know you get 10 of them, and they come in a mesh bag. So the crux of it is you go through the cotton, you know, using 1 or 2 per day. They are $10 for a package of 10. It includes a zippered mesh bag that you just put your used cotton pads in, and then as those are dwindling down, toss those in the wash with your whites or with your delicates, and they will come out all nice and clean. And I believe, do we specify there? I was looking to see if there was like a certain number. I don't think it's been tested how many times you can wash these, but the general advice is that you, when they start showing significant signs of wear, that's the time you need to toss them out. So check them out for the environmentally conscious among us who normally use regular cotton pads and don't like having to throw something away once or twice a day. You could use it with liquid eye makeup remover. You could use it with our 2% BHA liquid exfoliant, any of our toners, and any such similar products from other brands. of course, assuming they're well formulated. We always want you using well-formulated skincare no matter who's making it. Let's start things off with Annie. She says, "Hi, Bryan. Thanks for all you do. Love PC." Uh-oh, where did Annie's question go? What the dealio? Oh, there it is. Okay. The corners of my mouth, the corners of my nose and around it got very irritated using the BHA 9. What can I do for the irritation and continue to try to treat my blackheads on my nose? First order of business is I'm not exactly sure why, either because I can't remember why or because researchers actually don't know why. But this area of the face, right where the nostrils meet the skin above the lip, is considered some of the most sensitive on the body. You probably noticed if you've had a bad cold in the past, you're blowing your nose a lot, that area can quickly become raw and red and it can continue to be sensitive for several weeks after your cold symptoms have gone away. So in your situation, Annie, it could be that 9% salicylic acid is just too much for that area, which I suspect is the case. It could also be that you might be over applying. You could be, meaning you're using too much at once. Only a tiny, tiny amount of BHA 9 is needed, like a thin layer. You don't need more than that. Like, so with the new dispenser, less than a drop would cover that area. If you have more than that, put it someplace else on your body where clogged pores might be an issue, so you're not wasting it. Or other tips would be applying it less often. You could also take a look at our Resist Advanced Pore Refining Treatment. Has a similar texture to BHA 9, a bit more fluid, different type of a formula, but it has 4% salicylic acid instead of 9%. Another option is at some point when you are comfortable doing so, go see an esthetician at a spa, med spa, something like that, and have those stubborn blackheads around your nose professionally extracted. That can help a lot, and then you can use a lower strength salicylic acid leave-on exfoliant, such as 2% BHA liquid, as a means of maintaining those results. So having those pores extracted, getting rid of the contents through physical manipulation versus waiting for an ingredient like salicylic acid to penetrate, try to dissolve the debris and the blockage so that everything can kind of come to the surface. That's one approach. But in stubborn cases, or if you're thinking, gosh, I've tried 2%, I've even tried the 4% that you just mentioned, and now I'm on to the 9%, and it's irritating my skin. It may be time to have that extraction done and then just use a regular BHA exfoliant for maintenance. Gianna says, any plans on making a mineral SPF 50? Chemical sunscreens make my skin burn, especially around my eyes, and why aren't your sunscreens water resistant? Love from Norway. Gianna, we haven't officially tested all of our sunscreens, but I think it's safe to say that any of the mineral ones we offer, particularly those that contain silicones, are water resistant. They just stay on really, really well. We can't make that label claim because we haven't done the formal testing. So what I'm telling you is in part anecdotal and in part what I know based on cosmetic science and what I have seen that other sunscreens that make a water-resistant claim contain, and yet ours that have similar, if not the same ingredients, but don't make a water-resistant claim, do not have. In terms of a mineral SPF 50, we are always looking at ways to formulate sunscreens. They are some of the most difficult products to get right because you have to get a certain level of broad spectrum protection. You have to realize the aesthetic implications and to some degree limitations on what is possible to create aesthetically and yet still reach that target SPF. And SPF 50 is a tough one to get to, particularly with all mineral because and I'm not saying it can't be done, but the amount of mineral actives that you would typically need to use, whether it's zinc oxide all by itself or zinc oxide with titanium dioxide, the amount that you would need to use can already lend you some aesthetic and potential stability setbacks with your formula unless you really know what you're doing. Luckily, we have people on our team that are very well versed in that, and we have external experts that we can turn to for additional help. And then that brings us to another issue with the mineral sunscreens, which I personally love. I only use mineral sunscreens on my face. The other issue is that getting to SPF 50 using the mineral actives is almost always going to result in some degree of white cast, which can look bad on darker skin tones. It can look bad on lighter skin tones. It pretty much can look bad to one degree or another, no matter what your skin color is. So how do you get around that? Well, there's two approaches. You could use nano-sized nanoparticles of these mineral active ingredients, and you could go below 100 nanometers. So like 40, 60 nanometers zinc oxide. At that level, there are regulatory concerns about those mineral actives penetrating past the uppermost layers of skin, potentially getting lodged in the lower layers of skin, and then potentially getting into the body. I think that even when they are nano-sized like that what I just described is highly unlikely because, at least from the reputable suppliers that I've spoken with, those mineral actives, even when they're made that small, are wrapped in a larger molecule that the smaller molecule is unable to penetrate. So you have the aesthetic benefit of a very tiny zinc oxide, so you basically get a transparent result as opposed to a white cast. And you have the benefit that because of this encapsulation, it will stay in the uppermost layers of skin, which is where you want it to be in order to provide that sun protection. The other option, if you don't want to go down that low on the nanoscale, and at this time Paula's choice is not, just to reassure you if that's a concern, the other option is to use a tint. Use some sort of a iron oxides, some other type of cosmetic pigment, maybe even some mica, tin oxide, something like that to make the white cast less apparent, to make the product look more like a skin tone. And then the problem with that you get is it's nearly impossible to create a tint that is going to be universal. Paula's Choice, we strive with our skincare, particularly anything that has a tint to it, to be as inclusive as possible. We are just as unhappy as you are if a tinted product we make isn't suitable for your skin tone. We understand the frustration. And it can be frustrating on both sides because it's tricky to create that if you only want to do a tint and you're not selling it as like a makeup-y type product that's going to be a tinted moisturizer, for example, the only reason you're using that tint is to negate the white cast. You have to get to that point where you use just enough pigment or colorant to offset the white cast, but not impart any type of noticeable color change on a wide range of skin tones. That is tricky. This is something that we actively test with persons of color, the entire spectrum, but we're definitely more of a focus on people with darker skin tones because they are the darker your skin color, the more likely it is that type of a tint mixed with the mineral actives is going to be apparent and you're not going to like it. So it's just that balancing act that's very tricky, and we want to get it as perfect as possible, and so that's why you haven't seen that type of product from us yet. We really want to do it right, and we're willing to wait until we can. Very long-winded answer, but hopefully you got some good info out of that. Christopher, Bryan, do you have any thoughts on Morpheus 8, microneedling radiofrequency for laxity? Also, any idea why mineral SPFs keep failing consumer report testing? I don't know why they keep failing that testing. It's been a while since I've looked at that closely because I've had several issues with their testing in the past. Long story. But personally, I don't necessarily go by what they recommend or don't recommend in terms of sun protection. And on another personal note, that several of their recommendations on different types of products that have nothing to do with sunscreen or skincare have been disasters for me. So long story short, I don't really trust consumer reports in general. But I can't answer why their mineral sunscreens fail, other than for depending on the overall formula, because it's not just the actives, it's not just getting to that percentage or that perfect blend of actives, it's how every other ingredient in the formula either works with, in support of, or works against those active ingredients. You can use ingredients that help boost the SPF, certain antioxidants, including some very good synthetic ones can do that. There's newer ones coming out all the time. Different emulsifiers, particle size, blending techniques, and that is why you could look at two different sunscreens that have the exact same percentage of active ingredients, and one gets SPF 15 and the other gets SPF 45. And you're looking at the ingredients, you're like, okay, who's telling the truth? What's going on here? And in reality, they're both telling the truth. That's just how they tested, because it can be those formulary nuances within the inactive ingredients and how they're blended together and how they interact with the actives that makes all the difference. So the Morpheus microneedling for laxity, I haven't looked at that specifically, so I can't comment on that specific procedure. I'm just batting 1,000 with you today, aren't I? Microneedling. I'm familiar with what that is, how it works, and what the anticipated result is. Microneedling is not something I would recommend for laxity, for sagging skin. And the reason for that is that microneedling, like many other different types of cosmetic corrective procedures that emit light or use laser, or even all therapy, Fraxel, and radiotherapy, which is the thermage type treatments. It's all a controlled wounding of the skin. Those that produce heat and certain radio frequencies can cause some contraction of the tissue and a little bit of the skin itself. So those can be of benefit for that person that is seeing first signs of sagging. But if you have more pronounced sagging, if you're looking jowly, that is cut and paste time, because you're fighting against gravity. You're fighting against you're fighting against what gravity has already done, as well as fat pads beneath the skin shifting out of place and causing that drooping. Which is why that gets back to why I don't recommend microneedling for laxity, because microneedling, when done correctly and not too often, is going to stimulate wound healing collagen. Not the best collagen, but it can help. But sagging skin is not completely about collagen loss or collagen damage. There are numerous other factors. I mentioned gravity, I mentioned fat pad shifting. There is also age-related bone loss that occurs, the literal scaffolding of the structural aspect of our face as we start losing bone mass. At the same time, our skin continues to grow, which is why when you look at somebody in, say, their late 80s and early 90s, if they haven't had any work done, their skin seems to be hanging in spots, and their skin almost looks too big for the structure of their face. And then you look at pictures of them from 50 years prior, and everything looks proportionate, but because of bone loss and skin growth, now things are not proportionate. That can be corrected via surgery, but if that step isn't taken, you're going to get that disproportionate look. So radio frequency and ultherapy, from the research that I've seen, would be the two best types of procedures. Maybe to some extent, some of the Fraxel type laser light emitting treatments can also help, or you can do a combination of those, but not microneedling. Rose asks, are there any actives that peptides should not be combined with, such as retinol, vitamin C, etc.? In general, no. Some, because of the metallic element involved, some would say that like a copper tripeptide shouldn't be used with pure ascorbic acid. I don't know. I think that's more of a well-meaning recommendation versus something that I have seen proven in the scientific literature. Most of the peptides being used today have some sort of a acetyl or fatty acid moiety to them, which gives them more structural support, helps get them to where they need to be within the skin, and to a large extent, because this was a big limitation of the first generation peptides, it can help prevent the enzymes in skin that are naturally present, you can't just wash those away, from degrading the peptides. At least those that if your skin doesn't, because again, first line of defense, if skin's enzymes don't recognize a certain peptide or any other ingredient, their job, they're like little sentinels, little watchdogs. Their job is to go in and I try to, excuse me, can I see your credentials? Do you have your ID, sir? And if they, if that ingredient doesn't respond in some sort of a way that causes the enzymes to say, okay, you can go through, they will destroy it. They'll break it down. That's their job. But disguising, so to speak, those peptides in a fatty acid base that skin can identify will let them, for the most part, get through. I'm not saying that no enzymatic degradation takes place, but it's the penetration and the ability of various peptides to reach their target cells is much better today than it was even 5 years ago. That is a large part, and our increasing our knowledge on that topic has been a large part of what caused us a few years back to finally embrace peptides and talk about them more in the affirmative, as opposed to saying no evidence that they are bad for your skin, but the evidence that they do much good is still more theoretical. So we're more on the side of affirmative. There's some fairly good to excellent studies showing proof of effectiveness, and we know how much we need to use in products and so on and so forth. Let's see. May Britt says, can you give me good advice for products that work on wrinkles on sensitive skin? Well, there are a lot of ingredients. I think, of course, sunscreen, first priority. I can never talk about any type of anti-wrinkle product without stressing the importance of daily use of sunscreen, because that if you're not willing to commit to that, it doesn't matter what other ingredient or product they tell you about, you're not going to get the results you want. That ingredient or that product isn't going to be able to show its full potential. Presumably, you've explored vitamin C and or retinol. If you're using higher strengths of those ingredients, and in retinol's case, even some people have issues with lower strengths of it, they can be more sensitizing for some people. I like niacinamide as far as that would be like my next choice in terms of anti-wrinkle ability. A product like our 10% niacinamide booster, which also kicks in some vitamin C in the form of ascorbyl glucoside and acetylglucosamine, which is a mucopolysaccharide type hydrating ingredient that works really well with niacinamide to help refine skin tone and texture. I think that would be great, again, along with daily use of a sunscreen. I think that there's reason to take a look at our peptide booster. Just, of course, I'm talking about, I know our line best. I also think that you'd likely see some improvement with a good antioxidant serum. The Resist Super Antioxidant Concentrate Serum for normal to dry skin contains a fat-soluble or oil-soluble form of vitamin C that most people can tolerate really well. It's rare for me to hear of anyone not having a reaction to that product because of the vitamin C. They may not like the texture of it, they may not like how it blends with their other products, but so I would take a look at that one as well. You could try that during the day and then maybe use the niacinamide booster at night on cleansed, toned, and exfoliated skin. Speaking of exfoliants, absolutely AHAs help to smooth the look of wrinkles, stimulate collagen, ramp up that glycosaminoglycan, those substances in skin that give it that nice plumpness and kind of contribute to that dewy, youthful look. So if your skin being on the sensitive side, I would suggest trying the Resist Daily Smoothing Treatment with 5% AHA. That is a lower but still effective amount, and that particular formula also kicks in some nice soothing, calming, and irritation mitigation because of the curcuminoid ingredients that are also on board, as well as several different antioxidants, but the curcuminoids in particular. Okay, Mrs. Flory W. Hi, Brian. What do you recommend for evening cleanse? Double cleanse with oil? Wash twice with cleanser? Use a washcloth? My kids and I only wear Calm SPF, but no makeup. I would start with just one single water-soluble cleanser. Gel, cream, lotion, whatever your texture preference is, and see how you do with that. If your skin feels and looks clean after that, and I don't mean tight, squeaky clean and dry feeling like you can't open your mouth or you feel like your face will crack. But otherwise, if your skin feels, fresh, clean, and soft after just using that one product, then that's great. Just use that. The double cleanse is that can help with mineral sunscreens, but you may not need to go that far. And I don't want to recommend more than what I think you really need to do. So keep the double cleanse in mind as a back pocket idea. I do, in that vein, I do like the approach of cleansing oil to really break up those mineral actives, and then following with a water-soluble lotion or gel cleanser, like the Moisture Boost, Defense, the Clear Cleanser would work. I think any of those would be fine. Hi, Birdie. Maybrit says, my skin looks amazing. What do I use? And then the King says, yes, Brian, tell us your morning and evening skincare routine. I know my routine, I switch it up every now and then. Lately, I have been using, I use Defense Hydrating Gel to Cream Cleanser in the morning. That is, I use PC for Men Shave on the days that I shave with the blade. Every now and then, I also have a rechargeable electric battery. It's not electric. Well, yeah, it is electric razor that I'll use every other day. And then, regardless of which shaving product I use, I always follow with the Resist Advanced Replenishing Toner. What am I using after that most mornings? I use the Resist Anti-Aging Eye Cream morning and night. That's become a staple. I will typically put on either, I've been going back and forth lately in the morning, every other day, where I will have one day when I use, this is after toning. I don't use an exfoliant in the morning. I only use an exfoliant, a leave-on exfoliant at night. I find that works really well for me. So I've been going back and forth between the clinical 20% niacinamide treatment and the earth-sourced Power Berry Serum, either one of those two. And then I follow with the water-infusing electrolyte moisturizer through the cheeks and the neck area. I don't put that on my T-zone. I don't need that extra hydration through there because I'm combination skin. And then all over, eye cream goes on after that, and then all over is my beloved SkinCeuticals Physical Fusion SPF 50. I finally got a chance, speaking of sunscreens, to try one of the tinted mineral options from a brand called Isden. Where are they out of? Switzerland? Brazil? I wish I had it right here. But it's really light, it's really fluid, it gives your skin kind of that neat airbrushed look, but it's tinted. And it just is too orange for me. I mean, it makes me look peachy in a weird way. So I wasn't, and I don't like the fragrance. That's another issue. But it's that the deal breaker was the tint. So I stopped using that. I was like, I can't go outside wearing this. Maybe it'll look good on my son. He has a very different skin tone than me. And then at night, Moisture Boost Cleanser. Love that stuff. And it's been discontinued. If you use that, stock up now. The Resist Advanced Replenishing Toner again, I will either use the Calm 1% BHA Lotion Exfoliant or the Resist Daily Smoothing Treatment 5% AHA. Some nights if I'm feeling a little naughty, I might layer them both. And then I will finish with, lately I've been finishing with the Resist Super Antioxidant Concentrate Serum. And then if on any dry areas, I've been using our CBD Skin Transformative Treatment Milk. Really nice texture, really nice hydration and smoothing without a greasy feel. And then I finish with the eye cream. I will occasionally use Peptide Booster. I love that. I love how it feels. And then I forgot if I... many evenings, I do also use the clinical 0.3% retinol and 2% Boccuccio. I want to make sure I did not forget to mention any of my staples, because I know some of you keep really close track on this, and you'll come back and say, how come you didn't mention that product? Oh, you love that one. So that's my current routine, but I signed up to do some before and after modeling at a local med spa, and so on the 3rd of this month, I had a 50% mandelic acid peel, followed by a Clear and Brilliant Permea Fraxel type treatment. And that went really well. I'm primarily doing it to help with some skin tone and discoloration issues. I know I've mentioned in the past I've had some peels with pyruvic acid, which I think is kind of an interesting ingredient. I suspect it hasn't really caught on in over-the-counter skincare because it smells god-awful. It has a very strong sulfury vinegar, more vinegar smell. Yeah, so compared to like what AHA and BHA and PHA smells like, I don't think consumers would embrace pyruvic acid for regular use. And for a brand like us that doesn't use fragrance to cover up a bad odor from another ingredient, it would be especially noticeable. So we're we are 8 days out from that peel. I had the peel and the light emitting treatment, and I had some pinkness and redness for like the first 28 hours and definitely some swelling. But then about 24 hours later, all of that went away. Despite my skin looking kind of pink and reddish, it didn't feel sunburned or anything like that. And my person that did the procedure said that within a few days, my skin will start feeling like fine sandpaper, but it won't look dry and flaky and peely. And it didn't. She was absolutely 100% right. And it did feel like, you could just touch my cheek and it was like fine sandpaper, because that's the skin cells basically jumping ship. So yeah, if my skin looks smoother to you than normal, that's why. And of course, I'm sticking with my skincare routine because it's not. You get to a certain age, it's not one or the other. It's both. Victor asks, hello, can I use vitamin C treatment serum after 2% BHA solution? Yes, you can. Salicylic acid and vitamin C do not work against each other. I would love to, this is Mrs. Flory W. I'd love to try the PC Retinol plus Boccuccio, but I have rosacea and I am breastfeeding. What do you think? I haven't seen any contraindications of Boccuccio for rosacea. Actually, I think it could be brilliant for rosacea because one of the main benefits of Boccuccio is it's naturally anti-inflammatory, and that's why we loved combining it with retinol. There are some specific, or at least one specific study showing that Boccuccio enhanced skin's tolerability to retinol. And I just speaking from my own personal experience, I'm able to use that higher percentage of retinol, 0.3%, every night. If I wanted to, I don't always use that product every single night, but if I did, I don't anticipate I would have any problem with it. And in the past, I wasn't able to use most of our other retinol products that often, except for like Barrier Repair Moisturizer, which has a much lower amount of retinol, still effective, but a lower amount. And, I want to get more bang for my buck in that regard. And so for a while, I was using the 1% retinol booster, which I still think is a brilliant formula, But even at that strength, 1% retinol is a lot. Even with that, I was only able to use that about 3 nights per week. If I tried to do more than that, I'd tip that scale, I'd start getting signs of irritation, and that's not the goal. I think I answered that. Oh, with the breastfeeding though, I would advise against retinol. Most healthcare providers, physicians, OB/GYNs, they will advise pregnant and lactating women to not use retinol, just as a precaution. You can always check with your personal physician, see what they say, ask a pharmacist. I'm not the last word in this, and I'm not a doctor, so, but as a general rule, it is frowned upon. Oh, Birdie had a crown put in a month ago. It worked. Hopefully you don't have to get a root canal. Do you have any plans to bring back something similar to the tinted moisturizer you used to have? No, we don't. It comes up every now and then. I would say we're not against it. We were working on another one for a while that was going to have some different properties to it over and above what the previous tint had, and we ended up having a lot of formulary issues with it that we got to a point where we kind of felt like we were just spinning on it, and there were other more exciting projects that we really wanted to dive into and explore, and that was keeping us. And then secondary to that, we bleed skincare, and when we try to kind of step our toe outside of that arena and do color, particularly when it's multiple shades, we just don't do as well there. And it's not for lack of trying. I think to some extent our heart just isn't in it as much. And we know that in the realm of color products, that there are some incredible options out there from many lines, both new and old, and the manner in which the shade ranges have improved and expanded over the years is just remarkable. It's almost to the point where I would say if you can't find a tinted moisturizer or liquid foundation type shade to match your skin tone, you either have a highly unusual skin tone or you're just being too picky. One or the other, because there's just so many good ones out there. And then there's still a handful of companies that are doing custom blend. And it's gotten much more high tech than when it first came out in the early 90s. Prescriptives did that. Okay. Where were we? I did have a root canal, and I have had one before, and it wasn't all that bad. And they had to drill through a crown, and so if I have to go through that again, I will. What I really don't like is the out-of-pocket expense. But what are you going to do? Kim B says, will PC be bringing back glycolic 20% mask or an AHA liquid product? The Skin Perfecting 25% AHA, 2% BHA, rinse off, exfoliant peel, I think that's the official name, that launched earlier this year in honor of our 25th anniversary, is coming back. I don't have a date a for sure date to tell you on when it will be available again, but we are working diligently to bring that back, and it most likely, I'm saying most likely because again I'm not 100% sure, it will most likely become a permanent part of our line. I believe from let me just double check. I think from the product page, which is still live on our website, although you cannot purchase it because we are sold out, you can sign up to be notified when that product is back in stock. So hop on over after the chat and do that if you haven't already. Michelle says, can I use retinol, vitamin C, and niacinamide together, or is that a no-no? There are some brands and even some dermatologists that would advise against it. I don't. I've never seen any information that says that they contradict each other. They actually play very nicely together. Looking at the pure ingredients, niacinamide in particular, I like using it alongside retinol. Maybe not, doesn't necessarily have to be in the same formula, but if I'm remembering the research correctly, niacinamide, one of its actions is that it can upregulate certain enzymes in skin that can decrease with age, that retinol takes its cue from when it's time for it to break down. One of the reasons that some researchers believe that people get what's known as retinol dermatitis is because the retinol has a longer half-life in their skin. Their skin is not able to metabolize or break down the retinol fast enough. So the retinol goes in, the conversion, the enzymatic conversion from retinol to retinoic acid, which is the active form, happens within the skin, and then that retinoic acid starts finding those receptor sites and starts sending those messages. You make better cells, you stop doing this, this is how these cells are supposed to move, differentiate through the layers and so on. Sometimes those messages continue being sent, and that can stir up some inflammation. So niacinamide has been shown to basically drum up enthusiasm for those enzymes and help skin to make more of them, so that the retinol is shut down essentially when it needs to be, as opposed to just letting it keep working and then you apply more, not knowing that what you put on the night before is still quite active. And in a few days, you've got an issue. You're seeing signs of irritation and flaking and maybe even like a little bit of redness. So niacinamide can help with that. And then vitamin C is a tremendous antioxidant that can help keep retinol stable and help keep it, help ensure that it gets to where it needs to be in cells before it starts breaking down with exposure to air. Because as soon as you put that retinol on your skin, I mean, we are surrounded by oxygen. Oxygen is retinol's enemy, so it's kind of that race to make sure that retinol has a chance to be effective in your skin before the atmospheric oxygen that we live in starts to break it down. And of course, some of that does happen no matter what you do. It's really about minimizing and helping to control how quickly that happens, so that the retinol can actually do its work. So yes, I think using all three of those is fine. The other analogy I like to use, it doesn't always apply depending on the vitamin or the nutrient you're talking about, but in the case of retinol, niacinamide, and vitamin C, you wouldn't find a nutritionist or a dietitian to say, don't combine foods that have those nutrients at the same time. Animal foods like beef are good sources of vitamin A. Spinach is a good source of vitamin C, and niacinamide is naturally occurring in many different grains. And you wouldn't go to a dietitian and say, is it okay to have like whole grain bread and skirt steak and some spinach at the same time, or are those going to counteract each other? They will all deliver their nutrient benefits to you separately and in synergy with the other nutrients. So it's really that combination that is exponentially better than just having than just sitting down and having spinach, just sitting down and having a piece of steak. And for the vegans and vegetarians out there, there are other sources of vitamin A, of course, but animal protein tends to be the richest source, if I'm not mistaken. But I will not eat liver. Ugh. Okay, where did we leave off? Okay, we covered Michelle's question. We are on to Andrea. My cuticles always grow out onto the nails. Would an AHA help prevent that? Or any other advice? Don't want to risk damaging the nail bed. I think an AHA would help, along with one of those orange sticks, I think they're called, that you use to gently push back that skin. It's always preferred if the overgrowth of the cuticle onto the nail itself bothers you. It's not bothering your nail one bit, but I get that some people don't like the look of it. And of course, if you're routinely using nail polish, it can mess up the results in terms of everything looking smooth. But I would much prefer you gently push back that cuticle, and it's much easier to do that after you've soaked the nails, even if it's just like in warm water or like warm water with some Epsom salt for maybe 10-20 minutes, and then take that orange stick and gently push the cuticle back versus taking what's called cuticle nippers and cutting that off. I have had manicures, maybe 2 or 3 my entire life. I don't know what it is. I don't mind a manicure at all, but I much prefer a pedicure. You know, I can deal with these digits. You deal with my feet. So, and I've had to tell the manicurist every time they bring out those nippers, and because I can get some thick cuticle buildup, and they'll bring out those nippers, and I will say, you know, do not cut the whole cuticle off. You know, if you can do this so that you're only cutting off the excess skin. And the reason for that is that when you completely remove that cuticle, you are leaving that what's very close to the living part of the nail. You know, because what comes out down here is the living part, and then really what you see is dead. That's why cutting your nails with a clipper, unless you go too far into the sides, it typically doesn't hurt because the nails are dead. But removing that cuticle can significantly impact nail growth and also leave that area open to infectious bacteria, which can also hinder nail growth, nail strength, and so on and so forth. So if you are in the habit of completely removing your cuticles, I urge you to rethink that, particularly if you have noticed in recent years that your nails aren't growing as strong or as healthy as they normally did. That could very well be the reason why. There are cuticle dissolving gel type products that typically, what do they contain? Is it calcium hydroxide? It's typically, if I'm not, it's either more of an acidic, like highly acidic ingredient, or a more alkaline ingredient that literally and very quickly breaks down the protein bonds in those in the cuticle, in that skin, and then you could kind of just like, if you know, leave it on for 5 minutes, and then you can almost like go in and lightly peel the cuticle skin off because it's just kind of broken down so much. It's sort of akin to when you have one of those stickers on a glass bottle that, you know, you peel it off and then the backing is still there, and so you soak the adhesive backing in like hot water and Dawn dishwashing liquid, and then after an hour or two you can kind of go in with your nail and just peel it off. That's kind of the same concept there. So those products are out there as well. They do work. They can be irritating, and there's certainly the risk of overusing them. So if you wanted to go down that route, I would just urge caution and follow the directions and be careful to not, I know all these be careful to not get that solution onto the surrounding skin. Again, because they tend to be either very high pH or very low pH, and in either case, that's irritating to the skin. Okay, Jessica, I'm using PC2BHA, the gel type formula, and love it, but I feel like I need to add another product to decrease texture and pores around my nose, cheek region, chin, and temples. Jessica, the 20% niacinamide treatment is going to be your new best friend. Run, don't walk to that product, and you can use it, a few drops of it, smooth it on an even layer. You can apply it all over your face. You can apply it just to the areas where pores are more visible. It helps to immensely with skin texture. It helps just to improve pore functioning, improve pore laxity. One of the not so fun signs of cumulative sun damage is that as the skin support structures, collagen and elastin primarily, become depleted and or damaged, so goes the pore. The pore no longer has that same level of bolstering beneath it, very much like how a mattress over time tends to sag. It just doesn't bounce back to its original position. The pores can start distending, and when that happens due to sun damage, all of a sudden they look larger. All of a sudden you're seeing what a lot of people describe as orange peel textured skin. You may have always noticed pores on your nose, no matter how old you were, but now that you're in your 50s or 60s, all of a sudden you're like, why are my pores so big through here? Sun damage is a huge contributor. So Always goes back to sunscreen, but I think you'll love the clinical 20% niacinamide treatment. I really do. Jessica or Jerry, hi Brian, what active should I try to deal with redness? My skin is quite sensitive to actives in general, particularly niacinamide. Sigh. Really, Jerry, and that's too bad about niacinamide. Any of the known anti-inflammatory ingredients can help. There, as well as anything that you can do to help repair and or rebuild / strengthen your skin's barrier. The more depleted or damaged your barrier is, the more likely your skin is going to be showing and you'll be feeling signs of sensitivity. Some people just have naturally weaker barriers. If you're prone to eczema or other types of atopic dermatitis, even if you aren't necessarily experiencing that on the face, possible that your facial skin barrier isn't as robust. I like to tell people to think of their skin's barrier as layers on an onion. And when your barrier is strong and intact, it's kind of like that onion you see at the produce section. It's got those nice protective layers on the outside, and you have to peel those protective layers to get to the onion before you start slicing or chopping it. When people have a very compromised barrier or a naturally thinner barrier, they're that much closer to the heart of the onion, to the part that you when it's ready to start preparing for cooking. And that portion is much more sensitive, is much more vulnerable to damage versus the outer layers. So I think if you're up for trying it, our CBD Skin Transformative Milk, which doesn't, let me double check. I wanted to say it doesn't contain niacinamide. I'm almost positive it does not. In order to find this on our site, by the way, you actually have to search for CBD. Okay, it doesn't. So if just like from the homepage of the Paula's Choice website, if you go to the search box and type in CBD, it will come up that way. So I would say try that, and try the underneath that, try the Calm Repairing Serum, which gives you a really nice mix of anti-inflammatory plant extracts along with hyaluronic acid, which is also anti-inflammatory, and ceramides, which are key. The ceramides will work with the fatty acids and the CBD, the hemp seed oil, in the treatment milk to give you a really nice barrier boost. So I think just experimenting with those two products. And I wonder, Jerry, if you haven't tried salicylic acid, I would urge you to take a look at our Calm 1% VHA lotion as well. Try applying that in areas where you may be seeing some rougher texture or clogged pores. If you have tried it at that level in a product like ours, meaning a gentle, fragrance-free, no unnecessary irritants, then disregard that advice. But definitely take a look at the two products I recommended. All right. Good questions, you guys. Daniel asks, do you think that pterostilbene is the next generation version of resveratrol because of its similar molecular structure, but has increased bioavailability and potency? We were just looking at that ingredient. Was that the one we were talking? Let me see if I can. How are we talking about that? So as I'm waiting for this to open, I haven't seen if there is a comparative study, and it sounds like there might be. Oh, nope, it was a different ingredient we were talking about. It was a plant extract that starts with PTERO. So sorry about that. So no, in that, Daniel, in that instance, I would, if you want to come back and in the comment section, you can copy and paste a link to the study. I suspect based on how you're asking this question that you found one, that a comparative study exists. What's interesting about antioxidants, particularly the ones from plants, is that each antioxidant has its share of strengths and its share of weaknesses. And that's why our general advice is to not focus on what is the best antioxidant, what's the one I really need to use, and rather, there are certainly antioxidants that, like vitamin C, for example, that have an elevated status based on everything we know about it, based on how it's used in skincare. But trying to find, the antioxidant du jour and hope that, this is finally the one and we can forget about all the others is no smarter than hoping or trying to find the most nutritious food. And then once you feel that you found that, that's primarily or only what you eat for the rest of your life. It's about variety. It's about balance. So it's absolutely possible that this taro still bean, and I believe still beans are a type of phytoestrogen, actually, as is resveratrol. But it's entirely possible that in some capacities that antioxidant is more potent than resveratrol. It's also possible that resveratrol can act on certain types of reactive oxygen species, free radicals, that taro still bean isn't as adept at. And so the real benefit may be using a product that has both of those types of ingredients so that you can get the best of both and then not really worry about, well, which one is just the ultimate best. Mariah asks, Vivian, hey Bryan, do you have any opinions on 833 nanometer near infrared and 630 nanometer red light therapy? I do. I think that they both have some utility for collagen stimulation and for improving wrinkles, improving skin texture. The blue light type treatments tend to be the preferred option for acne because of how they work on skin to excite substances known as porphyrins, which have a destabilizing effect on acne triggering bacteria. The trick with that type of light therapy is that you don't want to do it too often because there's a downside to that type of light where frequent exposure can stir up inflammation and cellular damage that it's not the goal. It's never the goal to make skin worse or to cause unanticipated damage. So the bottom line is just to make sure if you're getting such treatments that you are keeping your expectations realistic, you are going to a practitioner that has a good solid experience with those treatments, and they are recommending your follow-up treatments at an appropriate time interval and not saying, come back next week or, come back whenever. It's, you can get as many of these as you want. If they're saying that to you, either they don't know what they're talking about or the device that they're using is pretty much not that powerful. So yeah, go ahead and have it done every day. You may as well sit in front of your digital clock, that has the red LED numbers and hope for the best. Excuse me. Now, Mariah, am I rubbing off the skincare products that I've already applied when I layer another over it? Is this something I should be worried about? You're not. I mean, unless you're just really working that product in. No, but I get the concern. I get why people ask about that. If you are concerned about it, because most of today's skincare products do tend to be the lighter weight variety. They do tend to be thinner textured. Even some of the products that look creamy, like even those that are in jars, when you put it on your face or your body and it warms to your body temperature, they almost tend to liquefy, don't they? They don't necessarily stay thick feeling because that's not what a lot of consumers want. They're using more products. They want to be able to layer. They want that compatibility. So unless you're just really aggressively rubbing your skin, and that's not good either, there's no reason to be concerned about wiping the product off. Okay, that was Mariah. Chris says hi, and he raised his hand. Will you ever come out with a lactic acid only serum? My skin gets lots of congestion, but glycolic is too irritating for my skin. We don't have such a product in the works, but it's ingredients like that are always up for discussion. Lactic, from a molecular standpoint, lactic isn't too terribly different from glycolic acid. Glycolic acid is a smaller molecule. But in terms of like penetration, yeah, I wouldn't. Glycolic acid has an edge because it is smaller, but lactic acid isn't that much bigger. Lactic acid has the distinction of being a prebiotic ingredient. I would argue that lactic acid is more skin natural versus glycolic acid because lactic acid occurs naturally as part of our microbiome. So it's definitely, yeah, it's an interesting ingredient. And there's certainly studies looking at its benefit when used alone, but thus far, our usage of lactic acid has always been in combination with other AHAs. So it's in the Resist Advanced Smoothing Treatment with 10% AHA. It is also, there are two primary AHAs in the peel I spoke of a few minutes ago, glycolic and lactic. Those lead the pack in terms of that 25% amount. All right. Let's see. I'm going to grab one more question, then I have to scoot because I actually have a meeting to attend, a late night meeting, work related. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Alex wants to know, is it possible to virtually work for Paula's Choice? I'm interested. It absolutely is. In fact, 98% of our team is working virtually because of the pandemic. There's only a small group of people that are going into our Seattle office. I've worked remotely for 5 years now from Michigan. Although I will say I've definitely missed traveling to Seattle this year. It's you got to see your coworkers in person, have that one-on-one with them and be able to go out for dinner and stuff like that. And just catch up on everyone's lives. So if you go to the paulaschoice.com homepage, just want to make sure I'm giving you the correct advice here, and then you scroll down under the Who We Are section, you'll see a link that says Careers. You can click on that and you can look at our current job listings and see if anything may be a good fit for you. And then there's kind of walk you through links that take you through the process if you're interested in applying. So thank you so much, you guys, for your questions. This has been great. I was a little nervous that there wouldn't be enough questions to get us through the hour. And every time I think that, I'm proven wrong. So thank you. Gotta stop being glasses half empty about that. But I will be back next week on November 18th for the final live chat of November, and then we'll get back on our usual bi-weekly schedule for December. Hope you guys have all been staying well, staying safe, keeping